Let's talk about a simple movement that solves one of the biggest issues that I see in youth and high school offenses, stagnation. And it happens to every single team. The play breaks down, players freeze, spacing falls apart. But there's a fix to this, and I'm pretty excited about teaching this to you today. There's one movement. You teach your team to refill the corner and you flow directly into a get. It's simple. It allows you to get into an action and it lets you restart offense, keep your spacing, and force the defense to keep working. So here's what usually happens. You run a set. You run some sort of action in early offense, maybe a ball screen, maybe an off-ball action, and it doesn't produce an immediate advantage for you to be able to get downhill and play at a positive advantage situation. The ball gets picked up, players stand, spacing collapses, and offense stalls. So you'll notice it often starts with an empty corner or with spacing itself not being realized what we need it to be. Help defenders are now sitting in the paint. Your best player has no lane to drive. They can't get downhill even if they have a decent matchup. And this kind of stagnation isn't necessarily about the talent that you have or lack thereof. It's about teaching the next layer of decision making. Okay, the first action didn't work. What do we need to do to get into something else? Okay, the first action doesn't work. How do we get into another action? The fix. You want to respace and flow into a simple action. You can see it in this bottom right corner right here. This is just a random, okay, we're spaced. Maybe the 5-man rolled out of this, the 2 lifted up. A couple of things that I think are worth noting. Refill the corner. It restores the gravity. It restores the spacing that you want. And then you get into a get, which is the quick throw and go into a 2-man game. Pretty simple overall. It requires timing and pace, but you can get into this in a few seconds, not even, if players just realize where they are to go. You don't need to reset a play. You don't need to call something new. You're just creating natural flow to create continuous action, okay? So out of that now, when we respaced, we have that 2 drifting to the corner, lifting up back to the trail, and you can play out of a get from there. And filling the corner absolutely matters for a few different reasons. Let's zoom in on this one side of the court. This is the trigger point. Most players instinctively, the ball gets picked up, you lift up out of the corner, you try to help. I want us to stay spaced because it pulls that help defender out of gaps. It opens up driving and cutting space. It reestablishes this deep spacing to the corner that we want to stretch the defense vertically, and it helps us re-engage help defenders. Then when we lift this trail guy up out of here, we have plenty of space for our next action to do what we want it to do. So you give the ball handler somewhere to go. You give your team something to do now. And it might not feel like much, but the difference between an empty corner right here and this guy up here means so much when you try to get into this get, because this guy stuck in that gap right there really hurts our spacing. So how does this get action work? I wanted to fill this with some reads that you can do to make the defense always wrong. Let's connect the dots. So we re-got into our spacing that we need. I put up 5-out template here. You can do whatever template you want, maybe 4-out, 1 in is more your cup of tea. But I got a double away spacing with a 3 and the 4 on the back side and the 2 in the strong side corner. So you fill the corner, you lift the trail, and you get into the get. What are the reads that we do out of it now? Okay, we get the ball moving again. We have another action to try to create an advantage. What do we do? Okay, I'm going to get you a few different reads to take a look at. If you want to screenshot this, take some notes on it, whatever. Here are the 4 reads out of the get that I think help teach decision making. And keep in mind, if you run this out of, your first action didn't work, you respace, you throw it to the trail, and you play out of that. That pace really forces the defense to communicate for multiple different times during the possession, and it makes it difficult for you to guard multiple different actions. Okay, the player then that receives the ball has a few different reads. If his man goes under, you shoot it if you can, or you rescreen. If the defender fights over the top, you turn the corner and you get downhill. If that get gets denied, you back cut. If it's a switch, you reject it or you isolate. Here's a couple of different ones out of it. All right, you throw that get. I didn't throw anybody else on the court. You go under, shot. You throw that get, he goes under. Why don't we just rescreen, right? Twist it, rescreen. That way you can attack to the left towards that open gap that you had over here, because we said that 2 would fill the corner. If that defender tries to fight over, you turn the corner and you attack. If you have that 3-man right here, I think you cut him on the 45. You create a bigger gap to be able to get downhill right there, and you turn the corner because you have the advantage. That get gets denied, right? He's completely trying to blow it up, not let you go over the top. Heck, you back cut out of it. If that back cut's not there, you lift that 2-man out of the corner and you play out of an empty side pick and roll. Denied, you back cut. And then finally, against the switch, this is what a lot of high school teams, youth teams try to do, even more so at the NBA level today too. You switch. This one's tough to go against, but it's really matchup-based, matchup-driven. On the switch, you can rescreen and then reject it if you have that space to be able to attack, especially if there's that 5-man right there. They're just going to try to switch it again. Or you can switch it, roll that 5-man down, and then isolate, right? I call that a kind of a slingshot. Isolate it, and you got your 1 on the 5-man now. Love that look for us as well out of the switch. So 4 different reads based on what the defense is doing. But again, if we're doing it with pace, it makes it difficult to defend because the defense is having to actually communicate. So this works at any level for us. The best part, you don't need elite athletes. You don't need 40 plays in the playbook. You just need players who understand spacing and timing, and eventually this can build rhythm and autonomy and not player reliance on the coach, which is what every good team should want at the end of the day. I've seen 5th graders run this. I've seen 6th graders run this, all the way up to the college professional level, and they aren't reliant on a coach to, scream and shout and run it, right? You just get right into it, and it allows you to get a good look, especially if you're playing with a shot clock. So some big takeaways for us out of this. Don't just yell move when the offense dies. Let's define it a little bit better of what movement needs to look like. I like filling the corners, getting into our spacing, and then playing out of a second action like a get. I think when you teach your players how to move and why, where they refill the corner, that's your spacing solution. Flowing into a get is our rhythm solution or our action solution. So we're solving our spacing problem, and we're solving our lack of action or our lack of rhythm problem with the get. So it's really a 2-for-1 type of deal for us, and it's simple. Players can get into that. Together, when you combine these, it gives your team a reliable way to restart offense without resetting. You got one movement, fill the corners, right? Re-get into our spacing or re-get into our shape. You got solutions out of it. That's what good teaching looks like, and it empowers players to make great decisions throughout a game.